So, welcome today to our episode of the ISHTA Yoga School podcast. This is actually our first episode ever today, officially, and I have a wonderful guest here today, Siphokazi Kwakweni, who is one of our most radiant alumni. All of our radiant alumni are going to actually have a chance to, at some stage, be present on this podcast, but there was a special reason why I asked Siphokazi to be here today as our first interviewee. It is a time now towards midsummer of the year 2021, and it is the day before the full moon. And Siphokazi's favorite thing is the moon. The first day I met her, she said, "The moon is my favorite thing," and we had a beautiful discussion and a gorgeous friendship, and the relationship developed from there. So welcome, Siphokazi, to our podcast interview today.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you. You're bringing tears to my eyes because, I'm very happy it is full moon weekend. And the last time I saw you was last full moon, actually.
You're right. Spot on. That's exactly it. And there's a beautiful energy in the air at the moment, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. Always when the moon is bright and out. Definitely.
Your face always makes me think of the radiance of the moon. It really does. Now, Siphokazi, you and I have journeyed together in several capacities. I mean, we used to do some corporate wellness work together, and we've studied and learned yoga together as student and teacher, and now as colleagues and peers. As yoga teachers in South Africa, and specifically at this time in the Western Cape, where we both live in Somerset West. I'm fascinated to hear a little bit more about your journey and where it began, because my intention with this podcast is to reach not only the students of our beautiful lineage of yoga, but also to our fellow alumni, to other teachers, and to teachers who are currently training, whether they're training through the ISHTA Yoga School or any other tradition or lineage of yoga. I feel like there's a gap in South Africa where there's a voice that can come in and the yoga teachers can speak and share our experiences, specifically within a South African context. So, Siphokazi, where did your journey in all of this begin? Give us some ideas.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rai. So my journey started at the gym, actually, if I could just really start just simply as that. So when I came across yoga, I was looking for something less intense, because I grew up an athlete as a sprinter. So I did a lot of hectic exercises growing up, aerobics, sprinting, high jump, all kinds of stuff. And I think at that point in my life, then I wanted something gentler, something different. And then typically I came across yoga. And I think the first time it was either in a DVD or a CD, from one of my big sisters, as I come from a family of 4 girls and I'm the youngest. So there's a lot of things that we do inherit from our older sisters. So, and then from there, I came across yoga at Virgin Active. And at that time, I was still staying in Pretoria. And it was just really just an exercise form for me. And then I moved to Cape Town, actually. I moved to Cape Town. And then in Cape Town, I realized, wow, in Cape Town, you don't only just find yoga at Virgin Active. You also find yoga studios, which was something that I was never exposed to, and I still stayed in Pretoria. I don't even think there were any yoga studios in Pretoria. So when I moved to Cape Town, then I discovered that there was like a bigger yoga community. And there was this one friend of mine, Liza, whenever we would meet, would always go for, like, our dates were at yoga, So she then introduced me to the Cape Town yoga community, where I actually went to a hot yoga studio. Which was also something very new to me. And I guess that's where I really fell in love with the practice. And then from there, I would gift myself for my birthday, like a monthly membership, unlimited, just to spoil myself. And then I moved to Somerset West from Cape Town, and also, again, just looking for a studio. And then my boss told me about you. And yoga life retreat studio. So then I went, for myself, for my own practice. And really, yoga then just became the only exercise I did, whether it was yoga and hiking, actually, mostly. And I fell in love with the peacefulness that comes with yoga, with the gentleness, the slowness, the mindfulness, rather more than the exercising side of it, actually, more than the physicality of it. I really fell in love with the peace, the gentleness, the meditation side of it. And yeah, that's basically where it started. And then from there, I had the opportunity then to study, through the ISHTA Yoga School. And at that time,
what actually made you go from going, this is something that I love, to something that I want to teach or learn about teaching? I'm fascinated to hear.
Thank you for that. That's a very good question, actually. So I work for a youth academy in Stellenbosch, and one of the rituals that we do at the academy is meditation, right? And one of the things that attracted me to the academy was the focus on personal development. So it's the Pinotage Youth Development Academy, where we teach vocational skills and personal development. And really what attracted me, as I've said, is personal development, really because its personal development is far bigger than life skills. In children's, my daughter is 11, and obviously she's in primary school, they learn about life skills. And for me, personal development is so much deeper than just ordinary life skills. So as an academy that does meditation, mine was to also get us as the academy to deepen our understanding of what meditation is, because I just felt that, we're just meditating for the sake of meditating, but not necessarily understanding, the benefits of meditation and mindfulness. And then through my work, then obviously the academy invests in continuous professional development. And as a program manager, I had the option of either doing a leadership course, and be a manager and be a leader. And I said to my manager that actually I want to study yoga, rather than doing leadership and doing a course at UCT. What I want to do, what I feel would sustain me and make me happy and actually grow me within the organization, is if I pursued this field of yoga, so that we can also just deepen our understanding of meditation and mindfulness, and also just bringing that element into our program. So that's basically how I ended up there. But obviously, for my own selfish reasons, it was in my own personal yoga practice. And my intention was not really to teach initially. It was just really to deepen my understanding, And then the journey went, and I actually then started teaching.
It's always a privilege and an honor for me when a new yoga enthusiast steps into the ISHTA Yoga School and says, I want to take the next step. And you specifically had this passion to go and to share the yoga with the world. It was right from the beginning. Some people come to the school and they want to deepen their personal understanding. Some want to, maybe they're not too sure, but you had a mission. You had a direction right from the get-go. And before we get to that, because I want to hear about where the vision is evolving in your mind and in your heart later, but when you were on the course, and this was actually before we had taken some of the course online, you and I and your group really got to spend a lot of time together. The ISHTA syllabus is a lot deeper, I feel, than many other yoga training syllabi in the world that focus a lot on the physical aspects only. And we dive a lot deeper into the Sanskrit and the asana, Ayurveda, meditation, the nervous system, the anatomy, the physiology. And there are such a broad and deep understanding of yoga in its classical form. What to you personally, Siphokazi, what stood out for you when you were studying? What fascinated you? What tickled the keys of your interest the most?
Well, a lot. I've got a long list here, actually, and I needed to write it down so that I'm not all over the place, but also I needed to write it down so that I don't miss out on anything as well, So really the stuff that stood out for me, right, in my training, first and foremost, was being able now to see yoga as a science. Because sometimes you just go to gym for the sake of going to gym, or sometimes you can just be doing things for the sake of doing them without really deepening your understanding. So for me, part of it was to really deepen my understanding. But what I came across there, which really stood out for me, was seeing yoga as a science, seeing yoga as technology, seeing yoga as art, and also learning about Ayurveda, the science of life, hatha, the sun and the moon, the balance, and obviously anything that speaks to the moon, it is definitely going to get my attention. So I'm very, and I mean, I'm a hatha teacher, I'm a hatha yoga teacher because of my love, and through my journey, it's also gotten to understand about life, the yin and the yang of life, the light and dark, all of that stuff that comes with the different two energies of hatha, ha. So that was the other one that stood out for me. And when we're talking and learning about ISHTA, I think one of the other things that stood out for me is, and I was actually going through my notes earlier, like notes from 2019, because, we journaled a lot. But one of the things that stood out for me is the mention and the talk of our life mission, our aim, our final goal, and what it is that we're trying to fulfill in the world, whether you're pursuing happiness, peace, oneness, and that which resonates with individual spirit, going within, the paradigm shift, mindset, heart sets, mind, body, and soul. Those are things that you don't find all in my time in a university course, The other thing that stands out for me is, us as human beings, but let me speak for myself, dropping dependence on external structures, such as school, church, government, worldly systems. And again, there's a reason why all of these systems exist. But for me, it's really just going beyond and thinking beyond those systems, where one actually gets to define themselves without being boxed by a system, and really finding and establishing one's moral guidance, from within. Mm-hmm. So it's all about self-discovery for me. And I work in the education space, and I'm quite critical about the education system, especially currently. And for me, even within the education space, my goal is to always introduce the alternative, and the alternative is not necessarily what you may find traditionally. So even with the work that I do, working with youth, I believe that we're the alternative to university. We are the alternative to FETs. So anything that I set my heart on to, anything that I pursue, I'm always looking at challenging the status quo or introducing a new way of looking at things, or introducing it to people who may not necessarily have access to it, and in this case, people of color. Mm-hmm. What else? So yeah, just discovering yourself and your own capacity, to navigate any situation in life, the joys and sorrows of existence, which is where obviously that comes, the balance of life. I fell in love with the history, just really understanding where this thing comes from, where yoga comes from. And also then, even in my journey, discovering that actually yoga also has roots in Africa, through Kemetic yoga, through Egyptian yoga, African yoga. But this is something that I only discovered now after my studies. I think the other thing that also draws me towards yoga is the philosophy behind yoga, and for me, I like to define what philosophy means. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. I love wisdom. So, the yogic philosophy, interconnectivity of everything, the greater intelligence, the universe. These are things that in the boardroom, you don't really talk about the universe. In a lecture hall, you don't talk about the universe and connectivity, talking about God, the life force, energy, remembering our divine nature, connecting with our divine nature, and us becoming conscious of our divine nature. the union of individual and spirit, connecting to the soul, conscious living, consciousness, mindfulness, and if you come to the physicality of it, then you ask yourself, but how does that come into yoga? How does moving your body and breathing and focus lead to all of that? And for me, it is really discovering all of that. So those are just some of the things, the themes that have stood out for me during my study.
Siphokazi, I mean, we can have conversations on just so much of what you've brought up here. I'm actually making notes because I don't feel like this is going to be the last of our podcast conversations. There's a lot of exciting material that I want us to dive into together in the future. And but something you mentioned right at the end here about these conversations about spirit and God and the universe and life force, things that we don't discuss in the boardroom, in the education space. Do you feel like that is a conversation, A, that needs to be had, and B, do you think it's something that is happening more and more?
I can say it's something that is happening more and more, purely because I choose to be a part of those conversations. So that's definitely one. And obviously, in this space, in my space, I get to engage with people like yourself, people who talk about these things. I'm involved in initiatives that actually explore some of these things. I think there's more and more content, there's more conversations. And I think even such platforms now of online, allow us to have such conversations rather than before COVID, where we were only limited to face-to-face. So one could say maybe not that much, but now, internet just really has brought a lot of information to the forefront. So definitely yes. And my intention through the work that I do is to ensure that we are still growing these conversations and we're having more and more of them, and hopefully starting to see them in the education system as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I love what you're saying, and something you said earlier in your previous conversation or divulgence with us about what you loved coming out of your training at ISHTA was, you said, dropping dependence on external structures. You validated for us the importance of these structures, these institutions, but the dependence that we have upon them. And in this world that we're living in now, where everything feels sometimes a little bit uncertain and unsure, I'm guessing that what you're saying, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a reliance on more internal structures. And would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, first, the words that comes up for me when you say that is our own intuition, and actually becoming aware of that, and acknowledging it, that tiny little voice within us, and getting to know it and getting to trust it. And for me, that's very important, so that, we're also able to engage with these structures, in a more mindful manner, in a manner that actually, instead of us just simply accepting what is given to us blindly, we should be able to interrogate, we should be able to conversate, we should be able to engage, we should be able to offer different perspectives, and also offer support, with the alternative, because I think that's what the world needs. I think, while the systems are there and the structures are there, they're there to serve, like as I've mentioned with Hatha, the balance, we have the good and the bad. And again, and I use that very cautious because I also don't like, good and bad, but the reality is some of these systems are not working very well. And we get to see it in how things are unfolding in life. You look at climate change, you look at the environment, you look at poverty, you look at corruption, you look at the pandemic, you look at all of the things that are happening around us. But then again, with that being said, you look at the good as well, the stuff that's working, the systems, the structure, so again, but we also can't just continue blindly. How can we do better as human beings, And we tend to have, again, dependency, like let's look at government, trusting the government, depending on government, rather than creating societies that are self-sufficient, societies that are able to take care of themselves and provide for themselves, growing people from within rather than creating a dependency. And I speak passionately about this because I work within the NGO space. I work in development. I work with young people who come from poverty, who are stuck in poverty, who are depending on government, and there is no way out.
So, Siphokazi, I mean, I get so excited when you talk like this, and I'm sure that everyone who's listening to this is hanging on your every word. How has yoga helped you personally to find peace in all of this external uncertainty where we are in the world?
So, my personal practice, so even before I became a yoga teacher, so yoga to me was and is my sacred space. You know, you just take out your mat. It's like literally just like creating, once you put out your mat and you sit on it, it's like you've put yourself in a bubble, you know? And again, I mean that in a positive way, because sometimes bubbles can also have a negative connotation, you know? But we need that moment of stillness. Well, I need that moment of stillness. I like to, sometimes I speak from a place of we, but I think it's one of that I speak from a place of I. So it's my time on the mat, it's my me time. And I like to even set the ambience of that, whether it's lighting a candle or burning incense, you know, just to really create that sacred space. It's a moment of stillness, a moment of silence. And the older I'm getting, the more I'm appreciative of silence and stillness. And just being able to breathe and just listen. Sometimes I don't even listen, I just am. Sometimes I just allow my mind to wander, to go crazy. Sometimes I still my mind, but it's just really is a moment of stillness, a moment of awareness. It's a moment of breathing, you know, and through my studies and just through the journey, I've really gotten to understand the value of our breath and what our breath really is, you know, and it is something that we take for granted because each and every day you just wake up, you are operating on autopilot, not even realizing that we're breathing shallow, whereas, you know, deep, meaningful breathing is what really nourishes our body, you know. So it is really a moment to be intentional. It's a moment to get out of autopilot, to breathe, to cry, to laugh, to reflect, to set intentions, to express my gratitude, and to just listen, you know, to listen to me, to listen within, to listen to my environment, to listen to my thoughts, to listen to my mind. It literally is a union of my mind, my body, my heart, my energy, my mood, my soul, my everything. So that's what it is to me. And from that place of having experienced it, it's something that I say it's a song that I want to sing and share with those who are ready for it, you know. So anything that I find of benefit for me, I want to share, you know, with those who are curious and who are interested in it. And most of the time, especially in the yoga community, where most of the time I find myself being the only Black person in a class, I want to share this with other Black people so that they realize it's not just something that is for Indians or white people, especially in Cape Town. You know, when I tell people that I do yoga, they say, "Oh, that's such a white thing." And I say, there's no such thing as a white thing. You know,
it's so sad that something that we can appreciate and honor that was nurtured and developed in ancient India is seen as a white thing. I feel like it detracts so much from the cultures of its origins and the various routes that yoga has had as it's traveled through the world. And yeah, it's a conversation that I would love us to have if you're willing to go there one day, soon, because there has been some poking, provoking, and confronting of the racial space in the South African yoga community, specifically in the Western Cape. And I feel like that conversations can be had around this, and people who, like you, who are bright luminaries and leaders in the yoga community, the conversation must come from within your space, not from the white space of white people trying to find excuses and things for why this and why not that, but rather than trying to justify, let us think, okay, what can we do to be more inclusive as yoga teachers? What can we do to dispel stereotypes and myths around certain practices and make these things more inclusive? Because when we at the ISHTA school practice, we honor the roots of yoga, but we don't see our practice as a religion. It's not a cultural expression. We're not appropriating anything. We are tapping into a technology, a universal science that belongs, as you said so beautifully earlier, to all human beings. And I feel like there's a blank and a raw canvas here for us to paint on as South African teachers. What do you think?
Absolutely, right. And that's my goal. My goal is to ensure that there's more, there's more of a rainbow nation within the yoga fraternity. There must be more of us within that space. And when I say more of us, it's for people to also just come and enjoy the benefits without being limited from whatever if they have about the practice. So moving your body gently and breathing it's not an Indian thing. It's not a white thing. It's a human, Yeah. So mine is to normalize it and to get more people of color to go to yoga studios and actually get comfortable and enjoy their practice and develop their own practice, actually. But there's a lot of them, though. I mean, I think what has helped during COVID is obviously in the online world, like in your America, and there's actually quite a number of Black yogis as well in Joburg, Cape Town, that one gets to discover via social media. So the community is definitely there, and the voices are definitely there as well. So it's also quite good to see and experience.
Yeah, this was something that came up for me when I was doing my Kundalini yoga training, and our teacher here in South Africa, Pritam Harikar Khalsa, is an instrumental mover and shaker in ensuring that yoga becomes accessible to people who might not have had the capability of studying yoga before. And there are some powerful projects and movements happening in Soweto, in Alexandria, in all over different parts of South Africa, in the cities, in the suburbs, in the rural areas. There's associations like Kundalini Africa Rising and various other associations that are powerfully driven by people of color. And our aim as yogis is to see the oneness and the unity in all things. But I think that also comes through celebrating diversity and honoring the multicolored space. I mean, our chakras are, there's no black or white chakras. There's all the other colors,
Exactly, the rainbow, right?
the rainbow.
Exactly.
And so you mentioned something so beautiful. You said your message is ready to be heard by the people who are ready to accept it. That's an old saying of when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. Have you noticed that as a teacher, that the right student comes to you at the right time?
Absolutely, yes. I've actually met so many incredible people, actually, just from this journey. Even before COVID, we have to always now differentiate before COVID and post-COVID. But I've met incredible people who have become good friends of mine, great sisters, great brothers. So yes, definitely. And more than anything, right, I'm also a student. I'm a lifelong learner. So one of the things that I like to always highlight is that I'm not a guru. I'm definitely not a guru. My plan, I've got no intentions of being a guru or being this perfect yogi, blah, blah, blah. Definitely not. Mine is just to really create a safe space for people to come and experience themselves,
Wow.
And in the process, I do exactly the same thing, So whatever they're learning, I'm learning for myself as well, Whatever they're healing, I'm healing for myself as well. So that's one thing that I like to always highlight, I'm definitely not there in a typical teacher, framework of teacher-student, which also can be hierarchical. Definitely not. I'm just there to hold space, to create community for people, like-minded people to meet, to breathe together, to move together, to pray together, to meditate together, and to do it consistently.
Siphokazi, one of the discussions that we have every year on the teacher training, and I remember we had this discussion, is that this beautiful line that one of my great teachers said to me: every time a client or a student steps in front of you, in your mind, take a moment and think to yourself, affirm the prayer that what is healed in you is healed in me. And you said it now, and hearing it coming out of your mouth is it's so beautiful, because I remember the beauty of that sentiment. It brings us together as an equal. We look eye to eye with the people who sit on the mat with us. And as you said, there's not this guru-disciplic relationship. There is definitely a direction of pouring of knowledge from teacher to student, but there has to be flow in the universe. And so there's a backward, there's a back current that comes with every wave. There's got to be a back wave. So we as teachers, I do believe we are in such a privileged and blessed position to be able to learn with every class we teach more and more about ourselves, about the yoga, and about the practice. And we're eternally grateful to our students for this.
Absolutely.
I would like this podcast to reach two different spheres of people at the moment. It might change as the podcast grows, but for now, I would love these episodes to go to kind of, one is our students, the people who are attending our classes, who want to get to know us a little bit deeper, who want to hear our message and connect to us on a level that they can't really in 1 hour on the mat. And the second is for other teachers and potential teachers in training, whether through ISHTA school or other schools, to kind of hear what people are doing in the field. So do you have any messages, A, for the yogis sitting on the mat, who is one of your students or a student somewhere in the world listening to this? And B, do you have a message for a teacher or a teacher in training? Anything that touches your heart.
Well, one of the first things I like to say, whether it's a teacher or a student, first and foremost, is to make it your own, And by that, when you come into a class, especially a yoga class, or even aerobics, whatever class, but obviously for the purpose of our conversation, when you come into a class, a yoga class, obviously the teacher is providing direction, through breath, through movement. And remember, our bodies are different. So even now on the screen, it's Ryan, it's Siphokazi. We are different. It can be somebody else and somebody else. We are different. Our bodies are different. Everything of ours does not respond the same. So by virtue of that, people are not expected to be doing exactly what the teacher is doing. Again, it's also not, as teachers, don't expect people to have their poses looking exactly like yours, because people are different. And I like to say that, right, because when it was said to me as a student, it really brought a lot of comfort, because it means that I can be me on this mat, On this mat, I can be me, the manner in which I want to be. I'm not expected to look exactly like Ryan. I'm not expected to look exactly like Cara. I can be me, So to me, that's very, very important, because from that place of being you, confidence comes. Because when you're trying to be something that you're not, then you're not going to be able to give it yourself, your best self, because it's not you. So for me, that's the first thing I love to highlight. And again, it's about knowing who you are. I just want to make sure I'm on the right track, because I did make my notes so that I'm able to share exactly what it is that I want to share with everyone. So know who you are. So for you to make it your own, you need to be self-aware. You need to know your why. Why are you practicing yoga? Why are you teaching yoga? And once you know that and you're able to articulate that, then operate from that place, and again, this evolves, this changes. So always keep on checking in with yourself, because as I said, when I started practicing yoga, I started off just for exercise. It was just, to maintain my figure, to be fit. Now I don't even care about that. I just care about my mental wellness, my emotional wellness. I care about my holistic wellness now. It's not just about physicality. So obviously people have got different needs. And so knowing your purpose, knowing your why, and then your message. From there, you'll know what you're missing. So in my case, I'm really an advocate of relaxation. I've actually made peace with that, and I accept that. I love that. And When one is an advocate of relaxation, somebody might, and I guess this was me in the past, anybody who loved to relax, I used to say, that's so lazy. But now, as a growing adult, I realize slowing down, it's about slowing down. It's about coming to that place of stillness. It's about really being intentional about relaxing and breathing and listening to the body. And again, we live in a world that is fast, it's busy, it's pressure, it's work, it's life, it's kids, it's relationship. It's so many things happening all at once for one person, and we want to be juggling this all the time. And I want to advocate for the opposite, so that's my message. My message is one of slowing down. It's one of breathing. It's one of being intentional. It's one of being mindful. It's one of valuing stillness and silence so that you can discover yourself, so that you can hear yourself, so that you can hear others, So it's going against what the world has taught us, about let's do things fast. It's all about the more the merrier. For me, it's less is more, actually.
Wow.
So your message.
Sorry, we had a little glitch there. Sorry, carry on.
So, and then be your message, walk your message. And as you are your message, remember, you're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So even you doing and living out your message, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself, be non-judgmental to yourself. See yourself as a human being. You're going to make mistakes. You're not perfect, and study, study. And studying doesn't always come from classroom, traditional. There's podcasts nowadays. There's Jaya, there's YouTube, there's information is all over the place. Follow the people that inspire you, follow the teachers that inspire you, and share it. The more you share, the more you teach, the more you learn, the more confidence you build for yourself. And sharing and teaching can be nerve-wracking. I know at first I didn't think I was going to teach because, just the fear of being in front of people, the fear of judgment, because obviously as an individual, one is judging themselves as well. But for you to break out of that cycle of judgment and low self-esteem and, being fearful, you just need to do it. And the more you do it, the more you share it, and again, knowing that you're not perfect makes it a bit better. It's like public speaking, the first time you do it, it's like nerve-wracking, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And just experience it and have fun. I think for me, the most important thing is to really enjoy it, just to really enjoy the journey.
Yeah, the joy is so important. Siphokazi, before we go into the last question together, I've got something I want to just pull up on the screen quickly. Give me a second. So I'm going to share Siphokazi's Instagram page here for us. So this is Siphokazi's Instagram page, Sipho the Yogi, and I was having a look through this just now before we began our podcast. Siphokazi, you have the most amazing life. Like, wow. And it feels to me like yoga has really been an instrumental part of this for you. Look, is this your daughter?
Yes, that's my daughter.
My and Sipho Yogi Jr.
Yes.
So is it okay for me to ask anyone listening to this if they want to follow you to just go and find you at Sipho the Yogi on Instagram?
Yes, please. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, that will be absolutely lovely. I'm also going to include in the show notes of this video any of your relevant contact information that you would like to share so people can get hold of you and find out where you're teaching, what you're doing, workshops, and if they want to contact you. And finally, Sipho, to round up our session, do you have any plans or a vision for the next step, for the next year or two ahead?
Oh, yes, definitely. So I've definitely, since I started my journey as a teacher, which was in 2019, I've really been doing quite a number of things, surprisingly, actually. When I do take stock, I'm always like, wow, I can't believe I did all of this, and And look, and the reason why it surprises me is because sometimes I just do things without, because I don't want to hold back, you know? Because it's easy sometimes to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't, because then there's a fear. Most of the time, when I don't want to do something initially because there's some fear that's holding me back. But one thing that I vowed is to just do it anyway. So even when I started teaching after the course, I went and I volunteered as a yoga teacher, which is basically how I started my journey in teaching at a studio. And since then, I've taught in a number of studios, starting at Ocean, part of Flay, Lifestyle, Jade. So I've done a number of, I've taught in a number of studios physically before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then ended up with my Yoga Love online studio. So I'm going to definitely be doing more of that in the new year. This is now me teaching via the Zoom platform from the comfort of my own home to your home. It's definitely something that I've really valued, and it's a platform and a community that I treasure. And if people want more details on that, they can obviously contact me, but there's also information on my Instagram page. I've also been doing mindfulness and meditation masterclasses, so I want to definitely continue with that in the new year. And also with my Kemetic, so as I've mentioned, I got introduced to African yoga through the Osiri University, which is an online university with people from Africa who are all over the world. And really, the Osiri University, one of the goals there is to really highlight all of the work that Africans are doing all around the world. So that's how I got introduced to Kemetic yoga. So I definitely want to do more of that. And then, but one of the big ones for me, right, from 2022, I really want to get into the retreat space. So yoga, meditation retreats, yoga, hiking retreats, specifically in the Eastern Cape, which is where I am from originally. So again, my goal is to share these things with my people, whether it's personal development, whether it's yoga, whether it's youth development. My goal is to always take these things back home. So I actually have my own curated retreat that's coming up on the 2nd of January. And I'm going there with a couple of friends of mine. This is me just really dipping my toes into it, the feel for the space. And it's going to be in Quinza in the Eastern Cape, just outside East London, a place called Purple Haze Eco Lodge. So I'm going to be there from the 2nd, which is new moon. So obviously full moon, new beginnings, New Year's, all of that stuff. I definitely want to do more of that. And I've got your name in my book as part of my plans, because I do want to host one with you in the near future.
That will be such a privilege and a real honor for me, Siphokazi, to anytime share space with you, if it's on a retreat, if it's on the mat, wherever we are in the world. It's really an honor to be a teacher alongside such a teacher as yourself. And I want to just thank you so much for your time here today, for sharing your wisdom, your insights, for us getting to know you a little bit more, and for inspiring us as teachers wherever we are in the world, and specifically in the South African space and context. I would love to have you on as a guest again in the near future.
Definitely, anytime. And thank you, Rai. Thank you for sharing this platform with me. Thank you for our journey, our long journey. And I know we're going very far together. And I'm always grateful. I'm always grateful for our friendship. I'm always grateful for your wisdom. I'm always grateful for your teachings. I'm just grateful for you. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siphokazi. Let's whoever's watching this podcast bring our hands together into prayer position and just take a moment to connect to the space around you. There's a big tractor somewhere outside my house now, and it's just ironic. We always remember that even in the moments of stillness, there's an opportunity to shift away from distractions. And as Siphokazi so beautifully put today, it's about turning inward and counting on a structure within ourselves, finding some balance and giving back to the world. So wherever you are, as we're watching this podcast together, as we're connecting, because technology has the ability to connect us through time and space now. May you be well, may you be happy, and may the blessings of your heart create peace in the universe. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you, Siphokazi. Have a lovely new year, and I will see you soon. All the best.
Thank
Bye.
you very much, Rai. Thank you.
Bye.